Hello, I am Xarkun. This is World of Warships Legends. Got Megatron here from the Transformers crossover on the screen. This is the build and the commander that I am testing out on the Großer Kurfürst. Got Revocation Protocol, his unique skill, highlighted here. It reduces fire duration on the ship by 20%, and reduces spotter plane reload time by 30%. The main thing we're going to be interested here in is the fire reduction, because fires are a significant threat to all battleships and the Großer Kurfürst, especially in this current meta with all of the HE spammers out there that are really good at lighting you on fire and can keep you lit on fire if they are able to do so for a very long time, which is never fun. I don't like being on fire, you probably don't either. So this Revocation Protocol skill, in my mind, pretty powerful, pretty strong survivability skill on Megatron, and I'm going to explain exactly why. But in order to do that, we're all going to have to understand how fire damage is dealt in this game. So I've done a bit of research, figured out exactly how it works. So a fixed amount of fire damage is done to a ship for every second that it is on fire. So every second that ticks by, every 1 second, you lose a certain amount of hit points when you are on fire. The rate of hit points lost is 0.3% of the ship's total hit points pool per second. On battleships, the maximum duration for a fire is 60 seconds. Thus, a fire that is allowed to burn on a battleship for the full 60-second duration will end up removing 18% of the battleship's hit points. So how much is that in actual numbers for the Großer Kurfürst? Well, on this build with Megatron, the Großer Kurfürst has 95,220 hit points. So 0.3% of 95,220 is roughly 286 hit points. So a fire that is allowed to burn for the full 60 seconds on the Großer Kurfürst will end up removing a total of 17,139 hit points. But with Megatron's Revocation Protocol active, fires can only burn for 48 seconds. So a full fire with this skill active only removes 13,711 hit points, which is about a 5,000 hit points difference, give or take some change. Now, you want to put the damage control mod onto the ship, which further decreases the burn duration for fires by another 15%, giving you, between Revocation Protocol and the damage control mod, a minus 35% fire duration on the ship. Well, then fires can only burn for a maximum of 39 seconds, which means a full duration fire will only burn off 11,140 of the Großer Kurfürst's hit points. That's about a 6,000 hit points difference there. So, you got Revocation Protocol and the damage control mod. Now, I don't have the damage control mod in this game, but I have since switched to it. Those two things together make fires burn for a much shorter time on your ship, which, if you screw up, then you don't have to deal with the full 60-second duration burn, and you lose about 6,000 less hit points. That might not sound like a lot at first glance, but all of that adds up. And just think about how often you run into HE spamming cruisers in this game and how often they light you on fire. Well, it happens a lot, right? And think about also how many times you get into a position where sometimes there's really nothing you can do about the HE spam coming your way, either because you can't see the ship that is shooting you due to lack of spotting on your team, or you can't hit the ship, or you're not in a position to get away from it very quickly, and then it lights a fire on you. Well, now with this skill, even if that fire burns for the full duration, it's not as big of a problem. It's not going to cost you as many hit points. And while you're on fire, what I like to do anyway is wait until the fire burns down to a point where I can pop my repair party consumable and repair the damage as it is going down. So I think the repair party consumable lasts for like 27 seconds or so, 26 seconds maybe, on this ship. And so when I see a fire burning and then it hits 26, 25 seconds, pop that repair party consumable, start gaining the hit points even as they go down. You have to wait a lot less time for that to happen. And if you make a mistake, you have a little bit more grace, a little bit more of a grace period with this fire, because it's not going to burn for 60 full seconds. If you accidentally hit that damage control, you think you're safe, somebody lights you on fire again, not as big of a deal. You aren't going to lose 18% of your hit points anymore. You're going to lose quite a bit less than that. So that right there, in my mind, ups the survivability quite a bit on this ship, and all German battleships for that matter, and it makes Megatron a very interesting commander, particularly if you are going to stack more survivability, inspirations, and skills on top of it. Also, Megatron comes with the skill that reduces the number of fires your ship can have at one time from 4 to 3. I'm running that skill here. You can tell because I am on fire yet again. This is like, the third or fourth time I've been on fire. And you can see it's burning in the center of my ship in 2 places, but it's only 1 fire. That's how that skill works in order to prevent 4 fires. Without that skill, you can have 1 fire on the bow, 2 in the middle, and 1 on the stern. With this skill active, only 1 fire on the bow, 1 in the middle, and 1 on the stern. Plus, it decreases the chance that you will actually be lit on fire in the first place by, I think, 5% with this skill. So add that on there. You're a little bit less likely to get lit on fire in the first place. And then for your inspirations, you could use somebody like Shear to further decrease the chance you're going to be lit on fire. Or you could use Azurlane Nelson to decrease the total amount of damage that your ship takes by 5%. Or you can do what I've done and elect to put Azurlane Hipper on there as an inspiration, and her skill decreases the amount of fire damage you take by, I think it's 5.5% at level 10. So there's even fewer hit points that fires can take off of you, which, to be frank, I mean, this ship is armored pretty heavily. It can take some significant chunk damage if it's not angled well, or if the enemy is shooting big battleship caliber shells into the softer parts of your ship, like the superstructure. It can lose a lot of hit points that way, but fire is by far the easiest way to whittle this ship down. So Megatron's skill, I think, potentially very strong, and it seems to be that way in my limited experience using it. By the way, you can get that same skill on Optimus Prime and use it for the American battleships as well. Although on those, accuracy is at least in my mind, more of a premium value on those, in that the American battleships are already pretty accurate, and you have the ability to spec them for even more accuracy, or build them for even more accuracy, and that's kind of their calling card. So it may be that you don't want to use Optimus Prime as a commander for something like the Iowa, because he doesn't really have any skills that buff the accuracy of the ship. Whereas the German battleships, by and large, are nowhere near as accurate as the American ones, and having not so accurate guns is just something you get used to if you play a lot of German battleships. And I do play a lot of German battleships. I don't know if I've ever explicitly said it, but I do like them a lot. They are some of my favorite ships in the game, except for the Bismarck, which I waffle back and forth on between liking and not liking. And actually, really the same is true of this ship, the Großer Kurfürst, ever since I saw a video of it on probably the Mighty Jingles, for World of Warships PC. I've wanted to play this ship, so I was excited when it came to the Bureau and I was able to get it and play it. But, the meta right now just isn't all that friendly to brawling battleships like these German ones, especially the German ones with their vulnerability to fire. Megatron and his revocation protocol skill maybe makes them a little bit less depressing to play, I guess. Makes the punishment that you take from fires a little bit less severe. Doesn't do anything about torpedoes, of course. I mean, we just got killed there. We've done 160,000 damage, though, so by no means a bad game. And it does look like the team is in a position to win here, and in fact, they are going to go on to win after these guys take out, I think, 2 out of these 3 enemy destroyers. In any case, I do think Megatron is very much an interesting commander. I think his skill revocation protocol is very interesting and possibly quite strong for the German battleship line. It's possible Optimus Prime also will be for the American line. Do you actually want to buy these commanders, though? I don't know. It does cost 5,000 doubloons, which I think is about $20 to purchase just one of these commanders. If you're going to do it, in my mind, probably Megatron is the best way to go. His base skill also increases the range of the battleship's main guns. Now at level 11, I think it's like 2 or 3% increase. So that kind of does offset the downside of Brawler, or at least the downside of brawling commanders or survivability commanders like Megatron, or at least the downside that most people seem to identify with them, is that they don't do anything to increase the range of the battleship's main guns. And range is definitely something you want on the Großer Kurfürst, since these German battleships are a lot about timing. You can't just rush in immediately and put yourself in a position where you're getting shot by everybody. You do want to hang back, use island cover, and do all the things you need to do to push up, kind of biding your time until you get an opening that you can take advantage of, where you're in a position where you can do the maximum amount of damage and take the minimum amount in return. So while you're kind of waiting or trying to get into those positions, you do probably want as much range on the guns as possible, although you are not a sniper and you probably shouldn't stay far back the entire game in this ship or in any German battleship. So I understand why people think the range, is a significant downside, or the lack of range on brawler commanders, or survivability commanders, whatever you want to call them. In any case, if you get Megatron, you can increase the range of the battleship's main guns with his base trait if you want to use him as an inspiration on your survivability commanders. Maybe you want to put him on Paolo de Revel for the Italian battleships. After all, Revel is the only commander we have for the Italian battleships, and he is one of those survivability commanders with no skills that increase range. But you have Megatron, you want to max him out, put that range up to whatever the max is, add on the Epic Booster of Battle Propensity flag to increase it by another 3%. You might even be able, between the two of them, if you're going to max out Megatron and use that flag, to extend the range by, a significant percent. So, in conclusion here, Megatron, very interesting captain for the German battleships. I personally think he's at least worth your consideration to purchase. Hope you liked the video. If so, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.